So many women are so obsessed with either eating or not eating, or what they look like and how they're eating or not eating is going to help them, that they are not being until they see it, because their brain is so hyper-focused on this thing that is taking away their brain space.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Be It Till You See It interview recap, where my co-host and life, Brad, and I are going to dig into the eye-opening convo I had with Lisa Schlosberg in our last episode. If you haven't yet listened to that one, you missed out. We had a lot of fun. She's great.
That's a great episode. I know. It was a lot of fun.
I know. I was on her podcast, and she has the most amazing, intuitive. I thought she would fucking followed me around high school and knew too much about me. It was amazing. It's so good. Okay. Today is Thursday, October 24th, and it is World Polio Day. Whoa. So you guys, a lot of people think that polio is gone, but it is not gone. It's gone in a lot of places where the vaccine was very much welcomed, but there are some places that haven't had the vaccine, or there's some people who have been concerned about vaccinations, but there's no cure for polio. The only way to prevent you getting polio is to have the vaccine.
Literally. My uncle is in his 80s and he's had polio since his 40s. So he literally got it in his 40s, which is crazy.
Yeah, he survived.
Yeah, he didn't let it stop him. He's a badass, but still, that sucks.
I'm pretty sure Mia Farrow had polio and survived it, and it was really rare. I watched the whole documentary on it. Anyway, and then she went around the world trying to help out with preventing polio. So you guys, let me tell you a little more about this day. But World Polio Day is annually observed on October 24th. This day commemorates global efforts towards a polio-free future, as well as selfless sacrifices of those working on the front line of the battle to eradicate polio from every corner of the world. Polio is contagious due to the ease with which the polio virus spreads. Although the virus is now exceedingly rare because of modern interventions, it can impair the brain regions that govern respiration, resulting in death. Polio has no recognized therapy, can only be avoided through vaccination. So make sure that people around you and wherever you live in this world are aware, because we know that we have people listening to this in many countries. And so,
Well, yeah, I mean, they just sent in a bunch of peacekeepers to vaccinate kids in the war zone over in the Middle East right now. Also, there was cases in 2022 in New York State.
Yes.
From people who are,
from someone who was
choosing not to vaccinate.
So, and look, there's a lot of different reasons. We don't need to get into a debate on this, but we're going to tell you that the science says on this. And if you are able to, you should understand what you're looking at, and then make sure that if you feel really strongly about this, support the efforts of those people who are going around the world to help people in places where it has not been eradicated. So yeah, it's World Polio Day.
It's World Polio Day.
All right. You guys, we are back from Cambodia. We are gearing up for our next couple of amazing weeks, and we've got a lot going on, but you can still come join us in Cambodia. If you're like, oh my God, I had so much FOMO. I looked at Lesley's Instagram and everything looks so beautiful and I want to go there. You can come in February. So go to crowsnestretreats.com to snag one of the last few spots. I'm going to be in Arizona in a couple weeks, and I'm going to come home, and I'm going to be in LA for a week because we're doing the accessories deck photo shoot. We're doing the photo shoot earlier because the team hated that we did it later last time. So we're doing it earlier, which means I have to be on top of my strength game to being able to do these photos, because we don't even have one of the pieces of equipment that I'm doing things on. So that's why I'm going to be in LA all week, truly cramming. So you want to go to opc.me/flashcard waitlist if the accessories deck is something you're interested in. And
what is going to be included in the accessories deck?
There's a marble exercise, which you don't have to go buy a Pilates marble. You can just use a marble. There's towel exercises. You can use a dish towel. There's toe corrector exercises. You can actually use rubber bands. There are push-up devices. We are going to actually figure out how to make a pair of those with PVC pipes so that we can teach you how to do this, because the beautiful wood ones are hand-spun wood. And do you know what they originally were? And we have these, babe. You know those wooden weights?
Yeah.
So that's what they originally were. He took those wooden weights and drilled a hole make a base.
Oh,
And so now they just make these beautiful hand spun wood.
interesting. Good.
And that's why they're like
so fascinating.
$700.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
But we're going to show you how to make PVC ones. We got to work on that still. But at any rate, we'll have a foot corrector. You can't make that. You have to get that. We'll have a pedal. That one, people, like I said, on a
People have made, but it's complicated.
It's complicated. It really depends on if you have access to the length of the metal, but it's also not that expensive. What else we're going to have? We made 2x4. You can make that. Sandbag, you can make that. So my goal is that more than 50% of this deck you can make. I have to count. If I can get it to like 70%, you can make. And then the rest is just these like 3 random pieces. I feel so proud of myself. So that's what's in the accessories deck. It's all the tools that help you build yourself up to exercises you can't do yet.
Yeah, love it. Well, next up, if you are a Pilates studio owner or home studio owner, or you're renting space, come join me for a free webinar called the Pilates Studio Growth Accelerator. I'm going to be helping you hurdle how do you increase your income. We're going to be covering how to double your income over the next 12 months. We're going to basically be talking about 3 big secrets that Lesley and I have figured out after we've coached more than 2,000 fitness businesses just like yours, literally just like ours. I mean, this is something that we had to go through, and now we've been able to help people through, and we know that we can help you through this as well, where it is absolutely possible for you to, instead of barely keeping your head above water, you can actually make the money that you need to make so that you can take a deep breath and you can actually enjoy running your own business. I know that it can be super stressful, and this webinar will help you along that path, and we'd love to have you come join us for free. So join me by going to prfit.biz/accelerator. That is profit without the O, prfit.biz/accelerator. And then after that, come join Lesley and I on the road. We're going to be driving around the country during the winter. We're leaving at the beginning of December. We are going to be driving all the way to the East Coast, all the way up to Maine, and then all the way down to Florida, Miami, and then back along through the South. And we're going to be doing pop-up classes over 8,000 miles, 23 locations, almost 50 events. It's going to be amazing. We'd love to come meet you in person. So if you're going to be traveling for the holidays, maybe it lines up.
We might be where you are.
Yeah, come hang out. Go to opc.me/tour, opc.me/tour for tickets and merch. We got shirts. We got fun shirts. You get to come meet our pups, and it's going to be a great time. We can't wait to meet you. So yeah. All right. Before we go any further, we had an audience question.
Yeah.
But this one was from Don't Mention My Name Anonymous. That's fair.
Yeah.
You can write in too and say, hey, love you. Please don't mention my name, but here's my question. Question is this. Hey, Lesley, I read an article you wrote about running retreats. Would you feel comfortable if I asked you a few questions? I was recently asked by my employer to help teach at our retreat. I had flights and accommodations paid for. Do you run retreats with employees or instructors? And do you ever pay them for their role? My role far exceeded just being a Pilates instructor at the retreat, and I'm struggling to move past that. I feel like I should ask for compensation, but I also want to be fair. Thanks for your time.
I love the inflection on this question. Way to go, babe. You did a great job. You could read more questions.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So I don't answer questions like this in DM. So I answer them here. Unless you are an agency or a member or agency on demand member, that's where we answer questions.
Yeah. So thanks for asking the question.
And also I just want to say why I would never get any work done. The amount of questions we get sent. That's why we do them here for those who are non-members. And I really appreciate that you trust us with this answer. So here's the deal. The mistake was made in that I can't decide because you said our retreat. What I can't decide is if you two designed this retreat together but because you work as an employee, that there was a different compensation. So I can't decide that.
That's not how I took it. I took it as if she's hired at the studio as a teacher.
Yeah. So, and that's what she's an employee. So then I was like, well, are you salaried? Do you have you always work 20 hours a week and they pay you a salary? So no matter how much you work, you're paid.
Somehow I find that unlikely.
Okay. But do you see how this is why
there's a lot of potential caveats here.
There's a lot of things.
Totally.
So let's just say you are paid hourly. This was their retreat.
You're probably paid based on how much you teach at your studio. Yeah. That's typical.
And you're paid by the class or paid by the hour, whatever it is. And then they sold this retreat and they're bringing you on to teach the classes. What they should have done is said, we're going to pay for your flights and accommodations in exchange for you to teach at this retreat. Because that is actually quite normal. Now you can get mad at me and say, we're not paying someone for their time or
but I think that's not the question. So it seems like it was more than just teaching at the retreat. Because if that was the understanding, then I think that's fair.
Right. So but I'm not there yet.
Okay.
So had the conversation been had, hey, Jessica, the people who are coming, they love you the most. We want you to be the one teaching the classes. So this retreat is paid for, and so are your flights. All you have to do is teach the classes. By the way, this is how a lot of resorts work. A ton of resorts won't even pay for your flights. They'll just pay for your accommodations.
Your food and accommodations.
And you get to be at the resort, and you get to live at the resort for free and eat for free and work a couple hours a day in exchange for you teaching some classes. Now, obviously, as we get to that, your role far exceeded just teaching Pilates. I think you should actually have an honest conversation with them.
I totally agree.
I think you should feel comfortable doing that and just saying, hey, when we talked about X, my understanding was that you were going to pay for X, Y, and Z, and I was going to do B and D. However, what I think we can both agree that at the retreat, I actually was doing B and D.
Probably client coordination, facilitating, making sure you're running around prepping things. Like, go run an errand real quick.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, I feel less comfortable with the agreement that we had because I feel like I should have been paid for those extra roles, or those extra roles should have been something I was asked to do ahead of time.
Yeah, because, I understand this. If I'm going to show up to teach, then I probably have envisioned the rest of the retreat experience that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
And then to have that hijacked by, can you be my, executive assistant while I'm on the road is frustrating.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. I do think that it is reasonable to say, hey, something's been bothering me. I would love to sit down and talk with you about this. The way that it all unfolded at the retreat was not my expectation based on what we talked about before.
Yeah, but I would be really specific. What did you guys talk about? What was your understanding? And then what did you specifically do that was outside of that understanding?
Yeah, and it may be because you probably have a really close relationship with the studio owner or your employer, and it may be that you say, listen, I just really need to talk to you about this because I can't do it again that way next time.
Yeah.
And if that's the extent of it, then you can tell them, listen, I'm going to let it go, but I have to have this problem. Or maybe the answer is, I need you to pay me for that.
I think when you do this in person, or at least over Zoom, like you want facial, you want expressions there, you want to get a read, I would just say, I need to get this off my chest because it is making me uncomfortable here. Yeah. And I just want to get your thoughts on it. And if they say, oh, this is what we agree to, and if they don't offer to immediately pay you, and if they go, well, this is what we thought, and you can just say, okay, next time I won't go under those conditions. You can say, I will teach, I will do this, but I won't do those other things. You have a right to say what you will or won't do. You can. If they agree to pay you, you can say thank you. But what I would just say is really map out, be very specific, because if you are not, it doesn't go well. And everyone's like, what else did you you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think you need to be really specific.
And specific on the things that you didn't expect to be asked to do.
Yeah.
That you ended up doing.
You also asked if I hire teachers for my retreats. I don't. And there's a few reasons for that. One, we sell the retreat as I'm the teacher. So there's that. We have brought people on our team to help us with retreats. And it's very clear, we're going to pay for X, Y, and Z. And you are going to have to do these roles at the retreat. And then the rest of the time is yours. So we brought our project manager last time, and she is a salaried employee. So therefore, that was just part of her work week. But we were also very clear, here's all the time you have off. Here's all the things that you get to do. Here's what we're paying for.
And she came with her husband, and her husband was like, put me to work, man. I'm here to hang and I'm here to help out. And it was like, okay, cool. But he volunteered.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
and then
instead of being voluntold, not fun.
It's not fun. And also for anyone listening, this is why have conversations beforehand. We have to normalize talking about money and go, what do you expect me to do here? Mm-hmm. What are your expectations of me on this retreat? Because it's very possible that they actually thought that you would be doing all the things you do at the studio.
Sure.
So this just sounds like a miscommunication. And also employers, can you see how it's not cool to not be honest with your team members on what their expectations are?
Not even. I can't imagine that the employer was trying to pull the wool over their eyes.
No.
I feel like this is just bad communication.
Bad communication. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that completely. So here's the deal. We do have a course on how to create, sell, and plan retreats. It's about 90 minutes. And I highly recommend that if you're wanting to do retreats. I also did a talk on Polys Anytime. They asked me about marketing retreats and some things to think about. And so if you use Logan, you'll get a 30-day trial and you can check out that course. And then you can buy our course and it goes into much more detail about margins and how to plan things out. But I do not do joint retreats because the margins aren't really, you have to sell even more people in it for the margins to be there. Retreats are not paid vacations to me. And when I do anything with anyone on my team, I am 100% doing my very best to make sure it is very clear. Here's what I expect of you. Here's what you can expect of me. Now, is that perfect all the time? No. And that is where reflection is important as the person who's hosting the thing. What could we have done better? And also trying to be a person where they can come to me and say, hey, I actually worked more than I anticipated. We also actually tell our people, you can only work X amount. We actually max it so that if they are running against a time clock, they don't run up the time clock before they talk to us. They can say, hey, I need more time to do this project. And here's why. So,
Well, anyway, great question. Thanks for asking. That's a tough one. I love questions like that. So
fingers crossed. Let us know how it goes.
So if you have a question, just reach out, text us at 310-905-5534, or you can hit us up on Instagram or YouTube or wherever. And we'd love to answer your question. Stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about Lisa Schlosberg in just a second. Okay, let's talk about Lisa Schlosberg. Lisa is a trauma-informed emotional eating coach, licensed social worker, and former personal trainer. She now helps people struggling with their relationship with food, body image, and eating habits, offering a holistic approach to healing. Lisa's personal journey of overcoming obesity and disordered eating deeply informs her work today.
So I don't like to do a lot of diet type things on here, but this is not about dieting. It's actually about emotional eating and disordered eating. And I really appreciate her approach to that because she's not trying to get everyone to lose weight. We have friends who focus on macros and everyone's just trying to lose weight. And she's not like that at all. She's really, like you said, holistic and trauma informed about this kind of stuff. And she is actually saying that a lot of times people do a lot of things to restrict. Like you can't eat these things, you can't eat these things. And that actually, the restricting can be a coping mechanism. So your food is a coping mechanism. That's why you're emotionally eating. And then by restricting food, that's new coping mechanism. So we're actually not solving any problems. And so she actually doesn't like to focus on restriction. She actually wants to get to the root of the cause. What is making you actually have these struggles with eating? And because if it wasn't eating, it'd be something else.
She said for her, when she was going through her personal journey of weight loss, she had been eating as a coping mechanism to deal or hide or numb the thing, whatever the thing was. And she didn't get into the specifics, but the reality is she just postponed dealing with the thing until later on in life when she was finally willing to tackle that thing. She said it still came up, but she still had to deal with it.
I mean, that's,
it's just, it was like a postponement.
Amy Ledeen, episode 5. That is similar stories. She lost all the weight, but didn't actually deal with the thing. And that's why it came back. And so she was like, she doesn't want to remove coping mechanism without offering something in return. So she says she is, with her trauma-informed way of doing things, and it doesn't have to do with her, but like if anything you have a coping mechanism with, what you have to think about is, I'm not going to just remove that. I have to actually have a life jacket so that I don't feel like I'm drowning as I'm trying to remove the coping mechanism.
What she was talking about was the food. Like for her, the food was the life jacket. And so she said a lot of people that come into work with her, actually one person specifically said, I signed up for your program and then I immediately started binge eating because I was afraid that when we started the program, you were going to take all my food away from me.
Yeah.
So before I lost it all, I was going to have the last little bit that I possibly could. I remember when I quit smoking cigarettes, I smoked 2 packs the day I quit because I was like, this is the end of the cigarettes. And I was like, it was
that might have helped you get sick of them.
Yeah. But she said, no, actually, when you come through my program, I'm not taking your food away. That's not what we're doing here. We are trying to identify the thing that you're avoiding or the thing that you're numbing by doing the action that you're taking, whether that is eating or drinking or whatever. She shared a pretty powerful mantra. She said, you're uncomfortable, you're not unsafe.
Yeah.
Right? You're uncomfortable, You're not unsafe. I'm going to say it one more time. You're uncomfortable. You're not unsafe, right? She explained that our animal, this is really interesting. She said we're an animal, we're a spiritual being living in a
animal's brain.
She said we're a spiritual being with a body that eats food with an animal brain. And I was like, this is really amazing the way that she said those 4 things. I can't remember exactly how she said it.
I think you're pretty close.
She said, our animal brain is designed to keep us safe, and it resists change and new habits because what it knows today is keeping us, we are currently safe. That's why we're uncomfortable. We're not unsafe. So our brain thinks, today, you're not dying or you're safe, right?
Well, also people who have have a coping mechanism with just food, the food makes them feel safe. And she is also saying it is okay to be uncomfortable. You have to tell yourself you're not unsafe. So you are uncomfortable. You're not unsafe.
Yeah. And so, well, the point is that while you might logically know that binge eating isn't going to be beneficial in the long run, even the idea of changing from that, which you know is detrimental for you in the long run, your brain is going to say, but in this moment, I'm safe. So we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. I don't want to change.
Yeah.
Right. And so what she said is by having this mantra, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not unsafe. She's slowly training her subconscious, her animal brain to begin to relinquish that control, that fear of making the change.
Yeah.
And she said that, well, first off, she said she interprets this stepping outside of our comfort zone as potentially life-threatening danger, even when it might not be, right? And she emphasized the importance of using conscious thought to remind ourselves that discomfort is survivable. So that's another one. While we're uncomfortable and we're not unsafe, discomfort is survivable is like another way to look at that same sentence. And she said, we need to leverage the power of our conscious mind by saying, I know this is scary. I know this is uncomfortable, but we're not going to die here. We are going to breathe through this. I know this is scary. I know this is uncomfortable, but we're not going to die here. We're going to breathe through this. And if this were me, I probably would have to put that on note cards all over the place to just continuously remind myself. But I think
you can do it for any coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And so that's why I really like Lisa so much. And the other thing I want to say is like, so many women are so obsessed with either eating or not eating, or what they look like and how they're eating or not eating is going to help them, that they are not being until they see it because their brain is so hyper-focused on this thing that is taking away their brain space. And so I really love that mantra. And I think you guys can use it for anything.
Yeah. And some people use Pilates as their coping mechanism, right? Because they can control it and everything has to be perfect and all this kind of a thing.
Yeah. And then they meet me and we take away the perfection and I get to go, you're uncomfortable. You're not unsafe. And that's hey, Jay said it, ugly, but not dangerous.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Ugly Pilates is okay.
Dangerous Pilates never.
Dangerous Pilates never. That's exactly right. These are great. I really love these concepts. Really great things to chew on. Stick around. We'll be right back as we're going to dig into the Be It action items in just a minute. All right. So finally, let's talk about those Be It action items. What bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted action items can we take away from your convo with Lisa Schlosberg? She said, step 1, identify the person that you want to be. Who is that person that you want to be in quality, right? What is the energetic blueprint of this human being that you are aspiring to be? Focus on qualities like being brave or compassionate or patient rather than surface level traits like thin or muscular or strong or whatever. I can't remember her story actually about this now, but she said for her, it was about being brave and she had to focus on being brave. And I thought that was really cool. It's a clever way to kind of flip the script here on this, like I think she was talking about the restriction concept and how restriction can just be just as controlling as the binging.
Yep.
Yeah. Focus on qualities like being brave, compassionate, and patient. Step 2, what would that energetic blueprint of a human that you're aspiring to be, what would they do? So imagine the actions that the person that you are aspiring to become, what would they actually do? With that energy and those qualities, what would they do in the situation that you are in or you are trying to navigate? And finally, step 3, how do I do that? Right? Consider how you can embody those actions today, right now. And what does it look like? What does it look like for me?
I love this because it's like we all give our friends the best advice from the highest place of love. and light. And then when we are talking to ourselves, like, I can't do that. But she's asking to like take a different view of yourself and then plan it out and then go, okay, now it's my turn. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I would say this, I would pull out a piece of paper or a journal and I would write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, write down step 1. Who do I want to be? Describe that person. You know, who are they? What are the qualities of that person? What is that energetic blueprint? And then step 2, write down what would they do? And step 3, how can I take a small step towards doing that today?
All right. I love that. And then
so what about you?
Okay, so this is another thing you can put on a Post-it that you can repeat. So when you're facing a tough choice, she said, ask yourself, how do I want to show up in my life at this moment? So how do I want to show up in my life at this moment? And then she outsources the answer to her higher self. And she says, what would the most resourceful version of me do right now? The most resourceful, I can't think of a better be it till you see it question. What would the most resourceful version of me do right now? And she said, I connect to the highest, wisest, most resourceful version of me and have that kind of guidance. So if you were the most resourceful version of yourself with all the answers and you're like, okay, I went to the person to ask for the advice and it would just have to be the most resourceful version of you, then you give yourself the best advice and then you can solve that problem. I love it. I think it's great.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So be it till you see it. So Lisa's so fun. I'm hoping we're going to see her on tour, actually. She's going to be at the Bushwick area. So that is really cool. And, you know, whether or not, I'm not saying everyone like that you listening here have binge eating issues, but I do think we all have coping mechanisms. And I think you can insert your coping mechanism here when she's talking about it and start to see like, how am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing that? And then just make sure you find someone who's trauma informed always to work with, who understands. But Lisa's amazing. So thank you, Lisa. And you guys can go listen to my story on her podcast, Out of the Cave.
Oh, yeah. Out of the Cave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah. I'm Lesley Logan.
And I'm Brad Crowell.
Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you going to use these tips in your life? You know, send this to a friend who you think is struggling with this. You don't have to be one gives them advice. Lisa can do it. And then they'll hear that we told you to do that. So that's how it goes. But please do. That's how this podcast helps more and more people. And until next time, be it till you see it.
Bye for now.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at BeItPod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the Epic team at Disenyo.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.